Chapter 16. How are you, Wen? Jeff followed her into her office as the crew started to break up and return to their business. Wen scuttled behind her desk and sat down. She started shuffling papers around to catch her breath and also work out a way to cope with her present antagonist. I'm just fine, thank you. When can I expect your full report? She had a feeling Jeff was not fooled for one moment. Tomorrow afternoon. He sat on the edge of her desk, getting as close to her as he could. I've got a lecture in the morning, but I'll get on to it as soon as I can after that. Close of play tomorrow, then? If not before. When? Can we go for a drink? A coffee, maybe? We have a very good coffee machine in the office. Help yourself. Wen turned to her computer screen and put her warrant card into it to boot it into life. That's not what I mean, and you know it. Do I? Wen managed to look at Jeff. We went beyond cups of coffee and nice chats a long time ago. Now, if you don't mind, I've got a lot of work to do. Jeff stood up and sighed. After all these years, you still hold a grudge? It's not healthy, you know. I thought you might have the good grace to have forgiven me by now. Wen stood up, rage coursing through her. Forgive you? Are you serious? You almost ruined my life, and Aaron has become a recluse because of what you wrote. You can't blame me for that. Given his history, I suspect that withdrawal from society would have happened anyway. Just get out, Jeff. Now. He gave her one last look, shook his head sadly, then left. Wen sank back into her chair and realised she was trembling. After all these years, he still had power over her, and she didn't like it one bit. Richard had driven Becky back to her house, and now they sat outside, going over the end-of-shift meeting. I think there's history between those two, Richard said, wanting to see if his partner thought the same. Yes, probably. But was it good history or bad history? That's the question. Sexual tension. Couldn't you sense it? Maybe. But he's married, isn't he? Is he? I googled him last night after the boss said he was being brought into the investigation. Happily married for 15 years. 2 sons. Did it actually say happily married? Well, no, but it implied it. Richard shrugged. Wouldn't be the first or the last to have an affair, happy or not. Would you cheat on Pauline? I'm not sure. That wasn't the answer Becky had expected, and her horror showed on her face. You wouldn't. Pauline's lovely, far too good for you. She ended with a smile, trying to bring the conversation back to a safe place. Exactly. She's gorgeous, clever, has a great job, and what does she see in me? She's more likely to cheat on me as the years roll by, and then who knows how I'll react. Get over yourself. You can't go through life thinking like that. You're a fine one to talk. What happened with you and Elliot? That's nothing to do with infidelity. We'd been together since uni and just sort of drifted into marriage. But neither of us was truly happy. Even Elliot admits that now. They sat quietly for a moment, both thinking about what the other one had said. Finally, Becky broke the silence as she opened the car door. Thanks for the lift. See you in the morning. Okay, and Becky? What? Ignore what I said about Pauline. I just worry that I'm not always going to be enough for her. You're stupid even thinking that, mate. She adores you. God knows why, but there it is. See you tomorrow. Becky got her keys out and walked slowly towards the front door. Her legs were like lead, and she felt irritated with Richard. To say his attitude towards adultery had shocked her was putting it mildly. She didn't know a more together couple than Richard and Pauline. They were so obviously in love that it was sickening. Then again, if he could voice doubts like that to her, it did mean that he trusted her, which in their line of work was vital. Becky put it down to the long days they were both working, and decided a hot bath and a large glass of chilled white wine would make life look a lot better. As Becky slipped into the hallway, she stopped. Something wasn't right. She put her keys down quietly and walked into the front room. She looked around, slowly, and then she saw it. Written on the mirror over the fireplace were the words, "You're next," with a photo of the crucified body in the park stuck underneath. Wen got in at 9:30, tired, disillusioned and stressed. Aaron's light was on upstairs, so she didn't have to confront his look of disdain about the hours she was keeping at the moment. The last thing she needed was her brother's disapproval of her for doing her job. How on earth, she wondered, do people keep relationships going when they do this work? Wen was aware that a lot of officers couldn't sustain long-term relationships, and that a marriage to someone who understood their erratic shifts and moods was always a plus. She had thought for a moment, just a small moment, that she might have that with Jeff. He understood her tiredness, her feeling that a case would never be closed, her frustration. She had taken him into her heart, her world and her home. Aaron got on as well with him as he did with any other human, and it had all seemed perfect. She had known Jeff was married, but like a fool, she had believed him when he had said his wife had left him for another man, that they were free to be lovers. He made so much time for her. He even took her to his home for God's sake, and there was never any sign of his wife. Wen found out later that she was working in India for 3 months as a doctor for Médecins Sans Frontières, but by then it was too late. Tonight she had to have comfort food, sod the healthy stuff. She found some Cheshire cheese in the fridge and teamed it up with crusty bread, butter and chutney, washed down with a beer. As Wen ate her naughty meal, the day replayed itself in her head. They were no further forward, but at least Jeff had confirmed her suspicions that this was the work of one murderer, even if the evidence didn't fit the brief. At least they were only looking for one person, or maybe 2 people working together for these crimes. Just that information meant Jeff's fee was worth it. They could put all their resources into one investigation. Wen put her head back and closed her eyes for a second, and her phone rang. Pulling it from her bag, she looked at the number, but she didn't recognise it. "Hello, D.I. Price here?" "Mom, it's Becky Wainwright." "What's up, Becky?" Wen was immediately worried. Her officers only ever called her outside work in extreme circumstances. "I'm not sure, boss, but I think I might have a problem."